Hi there. My topic today is on the mind body connection with some personal facts about somatic work. I'm not just going to be focusing on somatic work, but I am going to be talking a lot about it in the mind body connection. Um, when it comes to the mind body connection, there's a lot of research out there. I mean, there's some that says yes, there is a mind body connection, and there's some that says no, there isn't a mind body connection. And there's also a lot of outdated research. For instance, I'm sure most of us have heard of power poses. That one has been proven wrong or proven disqualified as far as it goes. But there are other studies out there that do seem to point in the direction of a mind body connection. And one study is a meta analysis from, I'm going to butcher this name, I think it's Kufab M 2021, and they talk about, or they did the overall meta analysis on 13 different studies overall to see if there was a reduction in post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms, depression symptoms, anxiety symptoms, and overall stress symptoms. And Peter Levine, 2025, says that somatic experiencing is a therapeutic technique that is supposed to have an effect on our interoceptive, our inner feelings and inner world, and our proprioceptive, our awareness of our body and movement, sensations. This is a trauma-based technique that uses the idea that emotions are stored in the body. This technique is guided by motor skills and teaches the client how to be in touch with their bodily sensations. So with this study from Kufab, they found evidence of a connection between the mind and body using these bodily sensations to reduce symptoms. They found a reduction in symptoms of PTSD, depression, anxiety, and overall stress symptoms. And this, I think, is pointing towards the direction that as PTSD symptoms show poor self-regulation, the getting in touch with your body can increase your self-regulation, can also improve how you see yourself over time, because PTSD is involved in a lot of shame based feelings, and if those symptoms are improved, then you see yourself as a more worthwhile person. I can say from firsthand experience, this is something I did for 5 years, was somatic therapy, and I had a reduction in almost every single symptom. I haven't had an anxiety attack since 2020. My depression is well managed. I haven't had a depression outbreak, outburst, whatever you want to call it, breakdown, since I had a med issue, but that was in 2022, so I haven't had an issue with that since 2022. I've also my PTSD symptoms, poor self-regulation. I'm definitely more self-regulated. Shame. I really don't shame myself very often, and when I do, I can catch myself. A lot of the times, I notice it as like a stomach ache before I'm really shaming myself. So there is a bodily sensation that comes up with those feelings of shame that I have to be aware of, or I just am affected, and I'm way crankier and way meaner to everybody in my house. I will also say that the self-efficacy, how competent I see myself, has definitely increased as I have gone through the somatic therapy, feeling like I can do things. I started school while I was in therapy, so I never thought I could do school before then, and now I have an AA under my belt, and I'm working on my bachelor's program, so I see myself as more competent as well. And so those are all things that were affected by in this study, were how people see themselves and how they feel about themselves. Another study by Carver and cohorts from 2015 tested progressive muscle relaxation, which is a two-step process in which muscles are tightened while the person pays attention to the feelings in their body, and then the person releases the clenched muscles still while paying attention to the feelings in their body. So this is very similar to the somatic experiencing in that you're paying attention to the sensations in your body. You're getting aware of what's coming up for you in those sensations. Excuse me. In the study with Carver, they tested nursing students at a university. They assumed nursing students have a high anxiety workload, and so they split them into two groups. One group did the progressive muscle relaxation, and another group just sat quietly and didn't do anything crazy. The experimental group was reported to have lower levels of anxiety post-study. So feeling into those bodily sensations, paying attention to those, helped decrease their anxiety, which I think also shows another level of self-regulation, because when you're anxious, you're not able to regulate yourself as much, whereas if you have decreased levels of anxiety, then you have increased levels of self-regulation. And so them being able to be able to direct and control their bodies towards a goal really helped decrease those anxiety levels, and becoming aware of those bodily sensations really helped decrease those anxiety levels. A third study that tested whether there was a correlation between mental illness and cardiovascular health or grip strength. They wanted to see if I test these people in their cardiovascular health and grip strength, is there a way to also show that it correlates to this mental illness? And what they did show was that people with lower levels of cardiovascular health and lower grip strength did have increased instances of mental illness, which makes sense because, I mean, if you have lower levels of cardiovascular health, you're probably not exercising, which means you're probably not getting those good feelings from exercising. We all know that exercise improves depression and quality of life, and if you are unable to do those things because you are depressed, then you're probably going to have lower cardiovascular strength or cardiovascular health and grip strength. I think this also shows the idea of a body-mind connection, because the mental illness is in your mind, or, we are saying it's in our minds. It's a mental illness. It's from our brain. And the body is saying, here's my experience because of this mental illness. And so it's a connection between a mental illness and a bodily sensation, or a bodily movement, a bodily piece. And so if we can't improve our depression and our anxiety because we are not able to exercise, or if we are just struggling to stay consistent with our cardiovascular health and grip strength increases, well, then you're struggling to also improve your depression and anxiety. So it's a two-way street of one thing leads to another. The last study I wanted to talk about was from Glenn Levine in 2021. These researchers wanted to study whether or not, again, is there a connection between cardiovascular health and mental health. And they used a meta-analysis to form their research, and they noticed overall that there is a significant impact on cardiovascular health if there are poor overall psychological health. So the study showed that chronic stress, anger, hostility, anxiety, depression, and pessimism all led to worse cardiovascular health outcomes. So that's showing that your cardiovascular health is impacted by your mindset, because how angry you are, how hostile, how anxious, how depressed you are is often related back to, I mean, many, many things in our environment and also our minds, but much of it comes back to the mindset and being able to reframe hard things, having a growth mindset compared to a stagnant mindset. And so this affects our cognition in many ways. When we are depressed, we are less likely to feel good about ourselves or be consistent. And feeling positively about ourselves affects our mood, which then goes back to affect our cardiovascular health. And once again, it's hard to continue exercising and to start an exercise regime if you're so depressed that you can't get out of bed. And so it's a sick cycle again, where you're not exercising, so your cardiovascular health is declining, so then your mood is also affected, and then you're more anxious and you're more hostile and you're more pessimistic. And so it's all of this is to show that there is a connection that warrants more investigation by as many researchers as possible, because it's clear that our mind is connected to our bodies, that if we get in touch with our bodily sensations, if we care about our cardiovascular health, if we care that our grip strength is low, then this will eventually affect how positive we feel about ourselves, how anxious we are over the long term. If we have an anxiety disorder, it might even affect that. I mean, I myself have gotten that removed from my record because I no longer have an anxiety disorder. I no longer have been affected. 2020 is almost 5 years ago that I stopped having anxiety attacks. And so these things really affect our mood, but they also affect our cognitions, how we feel about ourselves, how we think about ourselves, how we see ourselves, how confident we feel about ourselves. But it also affects whether we're healthy in the long terms, whether our body is functioning correctly. Saying I'm just a crappy person affects whether my heart is pumping properly according to this study. And so I would like to talk more and have more open conversations about a connection between the mind and body. If more people in general became aware of their bodily sensations and had a conversation with their body or listened to their body, I think that would also open up more research to this field that is currently saying, like, we don't know if there's a mind-body connection, but we think there might be, and there's a lot of research that's saying there might be, and there's a lot of pointings in the direction that there might be, but we just can't actually prove or show these connections. And so I think it's up to us as individuals to find our connections in our own body, because this is my body. It is not anybody else's body. No one else can be connected to my body. The researchers cannot see inside my body. They cannot feel inside my body. So I need to be aware of my body. And so I think this is really the starting point for us as different generations to listen to our bodies and to get in touch with our bodies. If anybody has any questions about my personal experience with somatic exercises, or if you have any questions on any of these studies, please let me know in the comments. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful day.